Hey there, thank you so much for listening to Something Super Spiritual. My name is Jeffrey Peck, and I am a psychic medium. If you are seeking conversation with loved ones on the other side, or discussion about spirituality, life after life, and anything in between, join me as we discuss all things spirit. We are collectively experiencing a spiritual awakening right now and recognizing that we are much, much more than we once believed. We don't die, and life doesn't end. We are eternal spiritual beings living in this crazy 3D virtual world of existence. Let's talk about it. Dena DeCastro, I'm so happy to see you back. You were my very, very first interview like a year ago.
Wow, I was the first. I forgot that.
Yeah, you were my very first interview.
Oh,
so
wow.
Thank you so much for coming back. We have so much to talk about.
Thank you.
Dena DeCastro, for all of you who might be new, Dena DeCastro is an amazing astrologer, and she's taken care of me for about 4 years now. Every year, yes. I have a forecast of what the energies are presenting in the next year coming, and it's always been so helpful, so helpful.
That's so good.
So welcome back. I'm so happy to see you.
Thank you for having me. Yeah.
Secondly, let's talk first about your new book.
Yes.
Foundations of Astrology, a workbook for beginners. I love this book. Thank you so much for sending it to me. It is so, for beginners, like you said, it's so simple. It's so straightforward. Mm-hmm. There's not anything that leaves you wondering or questioning or not really. For somebody who doesn't speak this language, this is so comprehensive.
That is exactly what I want to hear. That's so perfect, because that's what I was going for. I really wanted a stripped down, streamlined version of the basics of astrology for someone who is absolutely new, but interested. Mm-hmm. And maybe the reader might know something about the sun signs, like we often do from the internet, but that's all you have to know. And it really does walk you through, as you saw, the steps to looking at a natal chart and being able to understand what's on that page. Because that's where I get so much feedback from my clients, readings clients, not even students of astrology, but people who would like to be able to at least look at their own chart and say, what sign is my Mars in? Yeah. Like just by looking at the chart, what house and sign is my Mars or my Venus or any other planet? Because then that empowers you to be able to take that information on and then go on to the internet and do your own research on what does Mars in the 12th house mean? Or what does Mars in Taurus mean? Whatever you have, right? So it's that missing piece. I wasn't seeing a lot out there like this book. There are other great beginner books for astrology and workbooks, but I wanted it also to be a workbook so that it can walk people through how to start making interpretations. So yeah, it's so good to hear you say that.
Yeah, and it's true. I mean, it really is. It's so simple. It's so simple and straightforward.
That's exactly what I wanted.
I've looked at many, 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 many astrology books in the last 17 years or more. And a lot of them do leave you with questions, like even after the explanation, even after you're reading the definition of whatever and whatever planet in whatever house in whatever sign, and you're reading that and you're like, what did I just read?
Yes. Yeah.
So yeah, that's one thing. That's the first thing that jumped out as I was reading through this. It's so beautifully done.
Thank you.
And it's short and to the point. Yep. And I love the exercises you have in here for everybody. The fact that you can write in the book and take little notes and
yeah,
it's just beautiful.
Thank you. It was a labor of love.
I can tell. Yeah.
Yeah. And I worked with, my students in my mentorship program for many years on these same materials. I've used these same exercises with them. So they aren't just theoretical exercises or questions. I have actually used them with my mentorship students over over the past decade that I've been doing that. So I've gotten feedback and been able to refine and tweak those. So now this is, everybody's getting that in the book, the end result of all that.
Excellent.
So yeah.
Where can people find this book?
So easiest place is Amazon. It's up on Amazon. I also have it through my website. You can just go to my site and it's going to pop up. There will be a little pop up that says, hey, you want to find out more about my workbook? Go here. And you can read more about the book on that page and then also get a digital version on the workbook page at my site. So that's another option. If you don't necessarily want the hard copy, there is a digital PDF version and you get that through my website.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay.
Yes.
Anything else you'd like to say about it?
I just want to say, it's for students of astrology, beginner students. It's for even those who are astrology curious and who want to just learn more about their own chart. So both of those groups will get a lot out of this book. And it also provides, it's a springboard to go on and do other reading and research, but I also provide in there at the end a good resources section so that you have an informed place to start, because it's overwhelming all the information that's out there on astrology. So this gives you a good starting point if you're just interested and really want to know more, and it'll point you in the right direction.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
Well, you're very welcome. So, okay. And we have so much to talk about.
Yeah.
What's going on energetically, astrologically. Big shifts have been taking place and are happening in the midst of happening. And what that means for us individually and collectively and globally, Right. Yeah. So let's start with the big ones. Pluto is moving into Aquarius.
Mm-hmm.
What does that mean?
What does that mean? You're going to be hearing a lot about it.
Yes.
You'll be hearing a lot about it on the internet. So Pluto has just moved into Aquarius as of March 23rd of this year. It will be there until June 11th. Let me pop up my dates just to be sure that I have it all right. And then it will dip back into the sign of Capricorn. So, all the planets do this back and forth. They go backwards a few degrees, forwards some degrees. And so Pluto's doing that. And that's why it goes backwards into Capricorn again from June 11th up until next January 21st, where it will then go forward into Aquarius again until September 1st of 2024, when it goes back and then forward again. Finally, it goes into Aquarius, where it will stay for about almost 20 years total.
Oh, wow.
November 19th of 2024. So I think of this year and this, just to put it in perspective, it's only spending about less than 3 months of 2023 in Aquarius, but it's like the sneak preview to the big show, right? And simultaneously, it's wrapping up its time in Capricorn the second half of this year and then a little bit next year. So what does that all mean? Well, whenever Pluto changes signs, it's a big deal, first of all, because it spends a lot of time, as you can hear, in one sign. It's going to be in Aquarius for 20 years. It changes a little bit from sign to sign how many years it will spend, because Pluto has what's called an eccentric orbit. It's not a perfect circle.
Right.
So it kind of speeds up as it goes through some signs and slows down as it goes through others. And Aquarius is one of the slowest signs that it's moving through. So it's slowing down. So the symbology, though, of what sign Pluto is in, it tells us what is the shadow side of this sign that we need to work with in the collective right now in order to heal something that is broken. And we've been working with Pluto and Capricorn since 2008. A lot of things have gone down since 2008.
Yeah.
A lot has changed in the world. That's because Capricorn is about structures. It's about government. It's about the responsibility that we must take for things that are ours to take. It's also a sign of kind of growing up, getting mature, getting wise about things. And so Pluto has been in that sign, really kind of raising all the things to the surface that are in the way to growing up as a culture, as a species, taking responsibility as a culture and as a species. And also, you see the breakdowns of big structures, governments, banking systems, healthcare systems. That's all been gradually happening, over the past 14, 15 years. So here we are at the end of that, right? So it's like you can't talk about Pluto and Aquarius without giving the backstory of Pluto and Capricorn and how they relate to each other. So then Pluto's entering Aquarius, and Aquarius is a sign of revolution, of breakthroughs. It's about groups and collectives working together to improve things, to make things better, right? That can all sound all well and good, but there's always the shadow side to everything, right?
Sure.
And the shadow side to Aquarius, Aquarius is affiliated with technology. And so you could see where Pluto and Aquarius will be a time when we're confronted with the potential dark side of technology.
Ooh.
Yeah. So Pluto, it intensifies whatever archetype it's touching.
Sure.
And so on the high side, this could be a time over these next 20 years of massive technological breakthroughs, of like bold genius, revolutionary scientific discoverings and inventions. But at the same time, we're also going to be, I think, in the very lockstep with the idea that, as we gain those gifts, we will also have to confront the devilish side of those things as well. And that's, I could already think of some things that are going to happen.
So synchronistically, right now it's everywhere. The chat GTP, the artificial intelligence, the AI.
Yep.
And
you hit it on the nose.
Oh my God. And what that could do for us as a species on the good side, but also the scary side.
Yep.
Synchronistically speaking, how this is all coming into light right now.
Yep.
And
you nailed it.
Oh my God. What they have like, what's the word I'm looking for? Talking about what it could do for us in the negative. Elon Musk just came out last week and asked for a cool down for 5 years in this development, right?
Right.
So, wow, talk more about that. That's really amazing.
Yeah, you nailed it, because that's exactly what I've been thinking about. And probably most astrologers who know about Pluto and Aquarius are thinking about this too. It's like, this has really exploded very quickly, right?
Yeah.
This whole AI thing. And it's been brewing for a while, but now it's in the zeitgeist, and it's in the consciousness. And everybody's aware of it, and people are using it, and it's going willy-nilly. It's going really fast. And I think that's why, Elon Musk, which it's really funny that it's him, but that he's calling for reining it in, and that tells you something like, wow, if even he's saying that this needs to be cooled down, then maybe we should listen. I'm not always a big fan of him, but I think he might be talking some sense here. So I do think we're going to have to keep checking in with what does common sense say and what does our heart say about what's real and true and right, because the shadow side of Aquarius is getting very mental level about things, getting very much in the head and disconnected from the heart. And that's the shadow possibility, is getting way out there with, look at what we can do with this technology and all these great ideas and blah, blah. And it's like, no, but wait, who might that hurt?
Yeah.
Let's get grounded in common sense here. We have to be very careful. So it's the trick of this next 20 years of like boiling it down really simply is staying connected to the heart.
Yeah.
Even in the face of things that sound really good and ideas that make sense on the surface, but if you really dig underneath, it's not going to be good for the collective,
for everyone.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
No, and I'm not against AI. I think there, like anything, there are good uses for it. There are creative ways to use it. I really like the art, that's being put, the AI art that's being put out there is really cool and interesting.
Yep.
And there's this other nefarious side that we just don't even know. It's that thing of the genie's already halfway out the bottle at this point.
Yeah.
And it's going out. And what have we unleashed? Because I don't think there's any putting it back in now, honestly.
Right. No.
So it's out there. There's, free ways to do this and get this and use it. So now it's up to each of us to take personal responsibility in how we're going to be using these technologies, not just AI, but I mean, let's just expand on all the problems that we're finding from social media and the results of that and what it's doing to our brains and what it's doing to our relationships.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's all shadow stuff, right? And again, not against social media. I use it. I have fun with it. And we're all going to have to really be extra vigilant and cautious with how we use technology in the next 20 years.
Wow.
Yeah. We're all seeing it. I mean, this is not news, but it is like, it's up in our faces right now with a lot of these things that are happening.
It's true. And how you said with Pluto being in Capricorn for the last 15 years or however long it's been.
Yeah.
And how that related to, giant governments, corporations, and what's been happening on the government level, the divide, the division between the right and the left, and the turmoil and upheaval of January 6th and the insurrection and, and now moving forward. Well, then we've got the healthcare, that giant thorn in everybody's side. It's just, it's just not working. And for that to have been such a, being in our face and now it's, over the next 20 years, I mean, it can't go on being as broken as it is. And the synchronistically with Pluto being in Aquarius, it's just like, it's just a little bit of a wow thing for me, just recognizing it as the synchronicities that they are.
Yes. And, with the healthcare thing, I mean, there's a lot of hope. And I want to bring that voice in here too, that Pluto in Aquarius is about revolution and revolutionizing things. And so I have hope that because we have been so faced with the absolute limits of our healthcare system, and that's a Capricornian idea, the idea of limits and limitation, like hitting the brick wall of reality with what our system can take, then we will have to do something else. We will have to change it. Right. We will have to, or it's just going to break and disintegrate. It already is. So that is coming. I do have hope that with Pluto in Aquarius that we're going to see people coming forward with genius ideas about how to change this, how to make it better, how to improve it for the collective so that we all can benefit. I do have hope for that. But that also requires individuals to step up and claim, their place at the table and to use their voice and to use their abilities to do that. So it is this transition time, between now and next year, 2023 and 2024, where it's Pluto's going back and forth between Capricorn and Aquarius, where we're kind of flip-flopping between, okay, the breakdown of the old and the structures and the invention of something new.
Yeah.
And it's an intense time. It's definitely, I don't think things are, going to be necessarily calm and settled, especially until Pluto firmly lands in Aquarius, and even then it will be an exciting ride.
So Pluto was just in Capricorn. It's now in Aquarius. In June,
Right.
it retrogrades back into Capricorn.
Yep.
What is different about that energy being
Hmm.
retrograde in Capricorn versus having just spent its last 15 years moving forward in Capricorn? What's
Well,
different about
yeah.
that?
So actually, Pluto has been retrograde during the past 15 years. It will go forward and backward and forward and backward within the same sign. It does a little dance
Oh,
like
got
that.
it.
It kind of
Okay.
like takes like 2 steps forward, 1 step back is the
Okay.
easiest way to visualize what all the planets do.
Yep.
So it's been doing that, but it's been in Capricorn that whole time. Now it's stepped into Aquarius,
Mhm.
and then it's going to dip back into Capricorn. However, there is something different about this upcoming 6 month second half of this year time where Pluto's in Capricorn, in that it's wrapping up. It's like Pluto is, let's say, personify Pluto a little bit. Pluto knows that it's wrapping up its time in Capricorn here, right? And when it gets to the end of a sign, it's going to really start accelerating in terms of, it's like what we all do when we're getting ready to complete a project. It's like, okay, let's get this wrapped up. Let's throw it all in there. Let's do this. It will amp it up,
Turn up the
right? I do
volume a
think
little
it's,
bit.
yes, I do think it's going to be a more intense version of Pluto and Capricorn, even as it's going retrograde for part of that. And then it will station direct in Capricorn before it goes back into Aquarius.
Yes.
So it's
Okay.
kind of like go back, pendulum swings,
Yep.
pauses and then swings forward again. So yeah, thematically, it will be a time of wrapping up all those themes of Pluto and Capricorn.
Fascinating.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. That's big. That's big. Okay. And the next one we have to talk about is Saturn going
Yes.
into, where's Saturn
Pisces.
going? Pisces. Thank you. Yes.
Yes.
So yeah. So Saturn is coming. Is it in there yet, or is it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. In fact, in March. So we had an interesting March because we had Pluto entering Aquarius, which, as I mentioned, is a big deal. And then Saturn moving into Pisces. And Saturn actually changes signs every 2.5 years. Sometimes it will dance back, kind of like Pluto's doing, go back into the old sign and then into the new. In this case, Saturn's it's going to be in Pisces for the next 2.5 years, roughly. And that's, where it's hanging out for at least this next couple of years. So it's interesting because Saturn's leaving Aquarius, Pluto's stepping into Aquarius,
Yes,
right? So we
yeah.
know some of the things that Aquarius is about. What does it mean with Saturn having been there? Saturn, in Aquarius has been a time of building technology. Wherever Saturn is, we're doing a lot of hard work. A lot of real things are manifesting that are in alignment with the qualities of that sign. We see it on the ground, we see it in real life. And so we've seen the manifestations of technology. I would even say AI has been a product of Saturn moving through Aquarius. Now, Saturn moving into Pisces is a whole different trip. Pisces is such a different sign than Aquarius. Where the work is now, where the kind of the focus is collectively and individually for us, is on maturation through spiritual development, through the inner work, through going inside of ourselves. So you'll feel right at home with this energy, in the work that you do. This is a very, I think, a helpful energy for people who do things like you and I do, because it's going to be helpful for getting focused on our path and taking it to the next level of maturation of what we need to do in our particular careers, because they are Pisces careers, that we're talking about. Pisces is a sign of connecting with spirit, connecting with what's on the other side, connecting with what's beyond the 5 senses.
Yes. Yep.
And so Saturn's saying, okay, those things are now going to be more real and tangible for all of us. Those, the value of things we can't see.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like the planet of manifestation is in the sign of the non-manifest. It is a really interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's an interesting combination for sure.
Yeah, it really is.
Mm-hmm.
What else is Pisces symbolic of?
Yeah. So Pisces is the last sign of the zodiac, and therefore it's a sign that's associated with endings and letting go. It's a sign of releasing and surrender. So that's kind of the dharma of Pisces is surrender. So Saturn being there is also teaching all of us what are the things that we need to let go of now in order to move forward on our path, in order to do our work, in order to grow up, in order to be at the next stage of our development. There are things that we need to surrender and let go of. And to be, I guess, to make peace with the fact that things end is going to be a really important focus and lesson of this time. I know I think that's just a lifelong learning curve for all of us. We all want to hold on to
Yes.
the present and comfort and the things that, we don't want to let go of. But there are things leaving, during this 2.5 year period that we're in now. And maybe some things that we think we don't want to say goodbye to, or that we can't live without, but we can. And actually, Saturn's saying, it's kind of like the stern parent that comes in the room, that's Saturn energy, and says, okay, you need to close your books and do your homework. And you're like, meh.
Yeah.
But if you don't do the thing, then you're not going to get forward in life, right? And that's Saturn energy. It's like, take your medicine, do this thing that you don't feel like doing.
Discipline.
Eventually, it'll be good for you. Yes, exactly. So the discipline of letting go would be a good way to encapsulate this transit that's happening.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Change is scary for anybody.
Absolutely.
Let's be clear. I mean, it is scary.
We don't like
everybody, and it could be a change in a job. It could be a move. It can be a loss of a relationship. It can be, I mean, my goodness. I mean,
everything. I mean, and I don't want people now to go into fear about, oh God, all the things I love in my life are going to get taken away. No, not at all. And really, I want to also just clarify that when we're talking about these collective transits, it is, big lessons for the collective, and it's going to really vary for each individual how this plays out in their personal life, in their chart, depending on where that falls in their chart. Right. So that's another good reason to know your own chart.
So helpful.
You could then see. Yeah.
It's so helpful to understand that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, there's no reason to be in fear, because I've been through, how many times have I been through it? I don't even know at this point. But this last big change that I went through, it was horrible. But looking back, hindsight is always 2020. And looking back, you're able to recognize, oh, now I understand why it had to change. Now I understand why I had to let go of that person, or of that home, or of that location, or of that career choice. You know what I mean? It's looking back, it's like, okay, now I get it. Like, had I had that awareness moving through it, it would have been a little bit easier for me to surrender and be like, okay, you know what? I got this. These are things that have to change. Sometimes, the universe just gives you don't have a choice, and it's just time to make a move, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's where the discipline that you were just talking about really steps in. If you can recognize that within yourself, and to just be present in the moment and be like, okay, no other choice but to move forward. How are we going to do this?
Right. And that's what Saturn is really good at doing, is it kind of puts us in a corner. It's like, okay, you've only got so many options, or you've got one option, here's what you have got to do. And we don't ever like that. We don't grow from comfort. We grow from discomfort, right? That's been said a million times, but I'm going to say it again here, because what I'm talking about with both Pluto and Saturn are things that are going to make us uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So that we need to grow. And the Saturn growth, for me, the good news is though, it's about reconnecting with our soul this time.
Yes.
Saturn and Pisces, reconnecting with our soul, the soul. It's about going into our interior world.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, it's just so beautiful.
It is. And I think it's really going to come into the work that you're doing, as a medium too, that people will come to you that are ready to reconnect with their soul in this way and to do this work now. Mm-hmm. Maybe they've been brought to their knees and that's why they're coming. Mm-hmm. But maybe some of us don't have to be brought to our knees before we start to say, I know there's something more in my life than just going through the motions.
Absolutely.
I know there's something more. Yeah.
And you made a really great point. We don't have to be brought to our knees. You know what? Here's the thing. We're brought to our knees when we have resisted so long that there is no other choice. Because when we get to a place where the universe is ripping out that metaphorical rug, when we get to a place where this change is literally forced upon us, it's not a surprise at that point. We felt it coming. We felt that the changes were going to be necessary, however they might look. Yeah. At least that's my experience. Okay. I mean, it's totally my experience where I resisted and resisted and resisted, stayed in relationship too long. Maybe I just knew that this might not be working and resisted until the explosion.
Absolutely. We've all done that. Yeah.
Yeah. You stay in a job too long. You've got to make a change. This isn't working for you anymore. You know that there's something, you've got that feeling on your inside. That's your soul. That's your spirit saying, yoo-hoo.
Yeah. Yeah, totally.
The longer you resist, then comes the on your knees explosion. You're like, and having that awareness and recognizing that you actually have a choice in how you move through this changes the ball game entirely.
Well, yes. And that's what I think astrology is helpful with. I know for myself, I could say, oh, I have Saturn's in Pisces and I'm looking at where that is in my chart. And I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to have some choices to make around some areas of my life. And I know what they are. But I know that if I sit on the fence and I don't make those choices, and if I don't put in the time and the discipline that it's going to take to make certain things happen, then I'm going to be at the very least depressed.
Yes.
Or worse.
Yep.
Something is not going to go well.
Yeah.
I've learned over time. Right. And so that's what astrology helps with, like pinpointing a time frame or saying, what are the themes that are up for you right now around this particular Saturn and Pisces transit. Then you can lay that into your own chart and find out what it's activating for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good stuff. Okay. We had a third topic to discuss. Oh, the United States is currently in its Pluto return.
Yes.
So here we are back with Pluto. What does that mean for everybody? The United States and its Plutonian return.
Yeah. So this has been going on since, guess what? 2020. Surprise. Ooh. So, that wasn't a big year or anything. I don't know what happened in 2020. Yeah, it really started, during that spring of 2020 is when it started to come into play. And it goes for about a 3-year period, maybe a little longer. In this case, it goes there. Its last time of being in range is the end of 2024. So Pluto return means that Pluto has gone all the way around in a cycle back to the point where Pluto was at the time our country was born. July 4th of 1776 was the country's birthday, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And so we use that chart. There's a particular chart that astrologers use for the United States called the Sibley chart. It just means this is the time we've agreed on that, this is the quote birth time symbolically of the United States.
Sure.
And so, Pluto is coming back around to that original point. And so an individual can't have a Pluto return because it takes 242 years to go all the way around.
Right.
So countries are kind of special that way. But Pluto is about death and rebirth. Pluto is about endings and new beginnings. And Pluto in Capricorn, which is where the United States Pluto is about the kind of rebirth, the ending of old structures and the birth of the new. You can look at the birth of our country and see how it was born out of the ashes of the monarchy system. Like we eschewed the monarchy and then created something completely new, right?
Yeah.
It was based on some older ideas about what a government should be, but it was in breaking away and in fact killing the king symbolically that America was born.
Sure.
Now, what's going to happen? Our whole government is in turmoil.
Yep.
We've had this balance of the two-party system for, for all of its duration. And now that's not really there. I mean, you could say there are still two parties, but one of them really is not operating as a party. It's something else. I don't know what it is. So, I mean, not to get too political, but if we're going to talk about the US Pluto return, we have to a little bit.
Yeah.
So we see the chaos that's created by imbalance and the structure is falling apart. It's like the center will not hold. And so we're in this free fall, right?
Yeah.
And something new will be born out of the ashes. You and I can't say what that is. It is a tenuous time for the United States. And a lot of things are hanging in the balance in terms of what are we going to choose as a nation? What are the values that we're going to kind of recommit to? Because the country was founded on freedom, on personal liberty and the pursuit of happiness. It was founded on freedom to practice the religion of your choice.
Yes.
It was not founded on Christianity, by the way.
Right.
Going to get a little fired up here. It was founded on freedom from religious persecution, right?
Yeah.
So I do think all those themes are up in our face again. Obviously, it's happening, right? It has been since 2020. 2020 was like putting gasoline on the fire of these particular issues, particularly around religious beliefs and how much control should the government have and how much personal freedom should each of us have. And you could see on both sides, I'm not, even saying it's all one-sided, on both sides where both parties have made mistakes and infringements in regards to these topics.
Yeah.
Right. So I think that those are the things that are up for us to, it's kind of like you get to renew a lease or something, or recommit to, what is it that we want this country to be going forward? We're in the process right now of rewriting the contract. And I don't know what's going to happen. I'm not an astrologer that predicts the future, but I can say it is extremely important for all of us to be mindful of not going to extremes and to trying to find some kind of a balance between the opposites, because I think that's what's most needed.
Yeah.
Is to be somewhere in the middle. Because when we do this teeter-totter thing of going all the way to one side, all the way to the other, it's not, it will fall apart. And that's currently what's happening. I'm still going to hope that somehow we can get back to, at a more central, like what's going to work for everybody.
Yes.
Ideal
Everybody.
of this country.
Everybody.
Yeah. As much as possible.
Historically speaking, with, say, Europe, Western Europe, or even China, or like, they have so much more time than the United States.
Right.
And we, if we don't know our history, we don't learn our history, what's the word I'm looking for? We
Repeat it. Yeah.
Repeat it. Thank you. Oh my God.
Yeah.
We repeat it. Right. So looking back, are there any examples of like synchronistic experiences that countries may have had during their own Plutonian return?
Oh, offhand, I don't know, but I would love, and I know there are astrologers who specialize in this. It's a field called mundane astrology. And it's not that it's mundane, like boring, but mundane meaning of the world, the root being mundi. So there is that branch of astrology where, people look at the chart of a country and look at its history and can tell us how that lines up synchronistically with the events that have occurred. What comes to mind, though, is that countries, even though they survive, they go through drastic changes sometimes.
Yeah.
So the UK, for example, the UK, as we would call it, the UK has been an entity for over 1,000 years.
Right.
And there was a time when that little island ruled the entire world. Right. That almost every country was somehow, England
Touched.
or the UK had their foot in it through colonialism. Right. It was the most powerful country on the face of the earth. And now they're not. Now they're not. Like, they lost that over the course of this past century. So there too might we go. I mean, that occurs to me. Like, we've been the big, powerful entity that we are for quite a while, especially in the 20th century.
Yeah.
And now we're kind of losing our grip in a lot of ways. So I do think, we may not die as a country. No. The United States will not be over.
No.
But are we likely to transform into something completely different? Yeah. And sometimes karma needs to happen. And countries need to have their power taken away if they're misusing it. So I don't wish ill on our country, of course, in any way. But I do say that the way that it has been running is not working. Pluto and Capricorn has showed us what's not working. So we're going to have to invent something new. And let's hope that it's something better.
It has to be.
Yeah.
Wow. It's so fascinating to me to have these conversations because the synchronicity, I mean, you just can't make it up.
No, I mean, that it is fascinating to me. I look sometimes at famous people's charts, just, people that I like and people that I'm curious about. And you can often see, almost always, I see the transits playing out in their lives, for certain events that are going on. So that's an interesting thing to do as someone, if you're out there and you're interested in astrology and you know a little bit about basic chart reading, you can always look at a celebrity chart, someone you admire, and look at what's going on in their transits or what was going on during a particular time. Like, you're not snooping, really, maybe a little bit, but maybe just a little snooping, but it's fun. Like, from an astrological perspective, it's really interesting and fun to see synchronistically how things just line right up. And then you from there learn about how that applies to you in your own life. Right. Yeah.
It's so cool. It's good stuff.
Yes.
This will help you get started. Foundations of Astrology.
Foundations of Astrology, a workbook for beginners. Yeah.
So your website is DenaDeCastro.com.
Correct.
You can find the book at her website. You can find the ebook at her website. You can get your readings with her at her wwebsite. And what would you like to leave with everybody after all this talk that we've just had? That we are in the midst of radical shift all over the place. We are in the midst. You can't deny it. Looking around, we just can't deny it. So what would you like to leave with the people that in moving forward through these shifts and these changes?
Yeah, I'd say, what I always like to remind people of is that we all have free will and choice, and that none of these things that I've talked about has caused anything to be set in stone or fated. Yes, we are in times of change and tumult, and challenging things will come up in your life. As long as we're alive, we're going to confront challenges. And we can all choose how we're going to react in that moment, what we're going to do. And the more informed you can be about what your particular lessons and your struggles and your gifts are, the better you can make those choices. So I guess I want people to not hear anything that I've said as a reason to be afraid, but more to say, okay, you know, I've been given this weather report and it's raining outside and I need to take an umbrella. You know, it's more that feeling, right? It's not like, oh, it's going to rain all over you and your life's going to be ruined. No, it's just be informed and know you do have agency, you do have power, and you do have control over certain things. And most of all, you can choose love, you can choose self-reflection, you can choose balance, you can choose peace. You know, these are things that we can choose. So that's what I think I'd like to leave people with.
I love that. This is it's all such important information to be aware of. For me personally, there's a sense of recognizing that there's a sense of empowerment in knowing this information.
Yeah.
And like you said, we have agency to choose through that empowering feeling on our insides. And it doesn't have to be scary. That's just it. I used to be so afraid of my Pluto transits.
Yes, I know.
I used to be so
Most
afraid.
people are.
Oh my gosh. You know, I mean, but I did have some serious like crash and burns. But as I said at the beginning, you know, when you resist and resist and resist for too long, you don't have to crash and burn. You know, you totally don't. And that's awesome.
Yeah, exactly. Knowledge is power.
Yes, it is. The more you know, shooting star.
I love it. I love it. Those of us of a certain age know exactly what that means.
All right, Dena, thank you so much for being here with us today. Thank you, everybody, for listening and watching again. It's a pleasure to see you. And everybody, we'll talk again in a week. Thank you again for listening to the Something Super Spiritual podcast. If you know someone who would enjoy this episode, please do share it with a friend. For show notes, links, and to purchase a mediumship reading, my website is somethingsuperspiritual.com. You can also easily subscribe and follow the show on your favorite app, sign up for my newsletter for bonus content, and to keep the conversation going, you can easily join the Facebook community. It's all right there at the website, somethingsuperspiritual.com. Signing off for now, namaste.